Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. If you watched any of my previous videos recently, you'll have seen me talking about is USB for audio dead, and the Slate virtual recording system, which is all Thunderbolt. So that's kind of, I think that's the way we're headed, which is why, this is Danny. Danny's a friend of mine.
Hi.
And Danny asked me recently, what interface do you think I should get? Because Danny's a recording student, he's in his final year at university. And we wanted to make sure that Danny got something that was essentially future-proof because, yeah, he's a student now, but that's not going to be for much longer, is it? So you're going to need something that is not only rock solid, but should last for a long time.
Oh, definitely.
So today, we're going to do a practical review of the Focusrite Clarret 2 Pre.
Yes.
As shown by my lovely assistant. And as you can see, it's plugged into a Mac. Danny runs on a MacBook, and that was... Oh, I hit something.
Yeah.
Yep, that's because you knocked the cable. Right, that's fine. One of the main reasons why I suggested the Clarret to Danny was because it's a Thunderbolt interface, and I think that PCI Express for Windows and Thunderbolt definitely for Mac are the future, because it's a much more direct connection, there's lower latency, and apparently there's higher power transference over there, but that's a thing for another time, it seems.
Yeah.
So, let's start with the fact that this is a 2-channel interface. So, I've seen quite a lot of other 2-channel interfaces, and I've got to say, this is big.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot bigger than I thought it would be. It's quite physically large. Has that been an issue for you? Does it fit in your bag all right?
Yeah, still fits in the bag. Had it actually in the original box in my bag as well, just like a normal rucksack. So yeah, actually it's quite portable, especially for what you're getting from it. Yeah, portability wise, yeah, absolutely not a problem. Yeah, I mean, say it is a small interface, you do get a lot out of it. I mean...
Yeah, we're going to talk about some of the applications today. So it's got 2 of their new Clarret preamps, which, how have you found them? We're going to actually do a demo on the channel, but...
The Air preamps, yeah, I've found that they're really easy to use. A lot of it's through the actual software that you download from Focusrite when you get the interface. So you get sign-up code, all that kind of stuff, which is just... on here. So yeah, you've got like a sign up, let's just do new monitor mix. So then we go to device settings, and this is where everything's controlled. And you get a really satisfying click when, there we go.
And again. That sound is not the sound of the trackpad, that's actually the sound of the Clarret preamp clicking in. I think it's an inductor.
Yeah, it must be, because...
And there's also a nice relay click when you change from line to instrument as well. And
the best thing as well is you do get a little LED. I know it sounds really kind of minor thing, but it's one of those, if you're recording and you've forgotten that you put your preamp on, all you need to do is look, oh, actually there's a little orange light there that says, hey, I have actually put my pre on.
Yeah, so that's for the air mode, right?
Yes, that's for air, yeah.
So we'll come back to that later, because right now, kind of, we're not hearing what it's doing. Let's just talk about what it's got, because we say it's got quite a lot on it.
Yeah, so we'll start with the front. So obviously we've got our line and...
the combi jacks.
Yes, the combi jacks.
So these have the 2 air preamps with the air, which we'll demo later. They've both got independent phantom power, haven't they?
Yeah, so there's 2 little switches at the front. That's for your phantom power. So
I think that's quite useful, having 2 separate 48 volts, because a lot of interfaces just have a single button, and if you've got something like a ribbon on one channel, I've never had any problems with that actually, but it's something that a lot of people are concerned about. Yeah, especially if you use something like because this is quite a high-end interface. You might be the kind of guy to be in the field using something like a Coles 4038 ribbon. Yeah. This isn't necessarily for your budget user who's got just the cheapest mic they can get.
Definitely. I mean, yeah, I've had it before where I've used interfaces on out on location, and it's one of those, you do your phantom power, and that's going across 8 channels, and you don't want that. Sometimes you do want it separate. If you want to use a condenser on on one, but then you want a ribbon on the other. It's one of those you've got that flexibility there, which, like I said, for something like this is.
You certainly sleep better at night, don't you?
Yeah. You don't. You're not kind of worrying. Oh no, how much is it going to cost me to repair this ribbon because I've just left.
Yeah, and the two gains for those are hardware pots.
Yeah, so they're nothing tied into the software at all, and the same with the headphone.
So the headphones have got a hardware attenuator on them. It's not software controlled, whereas the big monitor button is software controlled, isn't it?
So if we go back to the mixing and routing, if you can see on this little bit here, we might.
Yeah, we'll come back to the software. We'll do a full screen cap in a minute.
Definitely.
So the knob on it is a software control, but that means it can link several the outputs or not, depending on what you want to do. So let's turn around and look at the back.
Hopefully it won't disconnect and die.
Well, we're just talking about it right now. We'll make sure it works. But one thing that we have to know is the power. You can't run this just off Thunderbolt. You have to have this plugged in, right? Yeah, so that's I'd say probably the main kind of downside, really. If I can find a downside with this, it is the fact that it does need even just a 12-volt power supply. It's one of those, I mean, if it's being used as part of a rack in a studio, then generally it's not going to be a problem. But like I said, we're looking at this in terms of practicality, maybe outside of the studio as well. And this is where I find that, it's by no means a massive negative. It's not a be-all and end-all kind of thing. It's a bit annoying, especially when your lead's not particularly long either. Lots of extension cables. But yeah, you got that. It doesn't draw off the power from Thunderbolt. But yeah, next step is you've got your Thunderbolt, which it's got a single Thunderbolt, which could be a downside potential if you want to use an extra screen. Has your Mac got two Thunderbolts or just one?
Yes, I've got two.
Right, so you're okay having a second screen or a storage unit, but if you wanted to chain them, that would have to be the last thing in the chain.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so moving on, there's the optical input. That's something that we're going to look at today. That's actually more powerful than it seems, that tiny little port, because yes, this has two preamps in this interface, but the optical is an ADAT, so you can have another 8 channels in.
Yes.
And with the latency that you can get on this interface, which is ridiculously low, right? We could record a full drum kit, and we're actually going to do that.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, Focusrite themselves actually marketed this as something that can be used with ADAT and to expand on the channels, really. So yeah, when you buy this, it actually talks about an extra 8 channel interface, there's very little problems connecting it.
What's interesting is there's an optical input, but there's no optical output.
Yeah, so this would be...
It would be great for recording drums, but then it's funny, a lot of the time, even like I've got 24 channels of audio running here, and on a normal day, I might use 4 outputs. Yeah. Maybe 6, because I've got 2 for my main monitors, a reamp out, a separate headphone mix, so that's 5 for me, and that's it. And I don't think you'd need even that complex on this, but
no.
There's 4 line outputs, 2 of which are copied to the headphone output.
Yes.
But then 2 which can be used completely independently, which we're going to try using a reamp box through one of those.
Yeah. And
then use that to make sure we can do reamping from this.
Yeah, I mean, initially the recommendation is using, obviously, 1 and 2 for monitors. But yeah, it's a really flexible unit. So that's why we're going to probably explore what you can do outside of what the recommendations are by Focusrite. Because their recommendations, although they're valuable in the sense, if you are new to this kind of thing, they're very kind of by the book recommendations. It's like, do this is the safe thing to do. Whereas, there's so many other things you can do with these interfaces that aren't actively explored or aren't actively mentioned by, especially the manufacturer. But yeah, and then we've got the MIDI ins and outs, which are, again...
Yeah, increasingly rare, but on small interfaces, I'm actually finding it quite useful. Like, very recently, I did a video on recording V-drums.
Yeah.
And I had to use a separate MIDI interface to the interface I was using.
All right.
I mean, that isn't really applicable here because it was USB-based.
Yeah.
But it's nice to just have the MIDI option in there, because if you've got a MIDI device that you want to use as a control or as an extra keyboard, if it's not a USB MIDI out, there's your answer. You can just jack that straight in. Or even if it does have USB out, a lot of laptops, like say the MacBook Pros, they only have a certain number of USB outs now.
They've got 2, one on either side, which is quite irritating.
Yeah, but let's say you're using an external hard drive and an iLock, your USBs are filled up. Yeah. So instead of having a USB MIDI keyboard, you could just use the actual MIDI out from it into here, job done.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's always useful. And there's a Kensington lock, which I've never actually used a Kensington lock, have you?
I'll be honest, I don't even know what one is.
It's a kind of lock where you can stop someone walking off with your stuff, where it kind of jams in. But
okay, that's probably what this little lock sign is at the front.
Maybe.
There is a little lock.
That'll be a control lock, so you can't knock the monitor.
Maybe.
Because Kensington lock is not kind of it's basically just a hole.
Okay.
So that there's kind of a lock that grips inside, so it can't be run away with. Okay. Although my version of a Kensington lock is to never let my gear out of my sight ever. If I can see it, it's not going anywhere because I'll fight someone to the death. But that's a separate thing.
I mean, I suppose it's quite handy. Depends whether it's been used or not. But it's.
And while we're looking at it, let's talk about the physical appearance, because it's brushed aluminium on top.
Yeah.
It's quite nice. It looks kind of classy, but as you can see, and I'll do some B-roll, you can see the fingerprints stick very quickly. Yeah,
me just wiping my finger over this now, it's leaving marks. But again, it depends what your application of this interface is going to be. As I said, if it's stuck in a rack, it's still going to be really aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, the red on the front's really quite nice. Can you get rack adapters for this, or is this just truly portable? Because I know the bigger ones you can.
I imagine so. I imagine you could get some brackets for this quite easily. That would just slot in. It wouldn't be something that would, you get quite snug brackets that could, you could bolt in. Nothing that actually bolts these bits. But the actual build quality itself as well, it's, it is, as you mentioned, brushed aluminium. It feels very sturdy. It's not going to be something that's going to break easy. I mean, don't drop it.
Yeah.
don't go at it with an industrial hammer by all means. But it is a very good, well built product. I'm really happy with it. Even the knobs feel really, really premium.
Oh yeah.
They don't feel
plasticky.
Yeah, and the best thing is as well, it's one of those, you find that on a lot of the knobs, on a lot of other interfaces, you do have the clicks for every integer, whereas this is quite smooth. And I mean, it's completely down to preference. I mean, some people prefer to actually feel each time that you're going up, say, I don't know, a dB or something. But
a lot of mastering engineers prefer stepped because then they know exactly where they're at.
So some people prefer that, but then it's one of those, if you're one of what people want just to fine tune it, I think the smoothness is something that's a bit more appealing for some people, me included.
Fair enough.
But yeah,
one thing that we can't actually demonstrate to the viewer at home, so I'm just going to ask you, the headphone outputs, how loud did they get and how clear are they?
I mean, I've not had any problems using this. The headphone outputs have been extremely clear. Again, I mean, I wouldn't ever really go to 10 on this. When I've used this to monitor in the past, it's kind of, it's been around midway. If anything, I've pushed maybe 8, and everything's been really, really clear. I mean, part of this is probably, you've got to think about what your volume is going to be on what you're using. So you said on my Mac, usually I'll be having this on half volume as well. And I find that that's what gives a clear representation for myself. But yeah, I mean, everything's quite clear.
So it's not distorted, it's crystal clear. It feels like there's more headroom.
Yeah, there's plenty of headroom on there, in my opinion.
Cool. That's what we want to hear at this kind of product level. Right, so let's start actually recording things. So what we're going to do is we're going to move into the live room, and we are going to record some guitar parts to a track that's already been released on my YouTube channel called Silence. We're just going to use that as kind of a template. We're not going to come up with anything new creative because we're in a bit of a rush today trying to get all this done. So we're going to record the dry DI guitars. We're going to use a reamp box to reamp through a real tube amp, and we're going to try using the air on and off.
Yes. See the difference with that.
And we'll also do a DI from the bass and use the air on that, see if that makes a difference.
Yeah.
And drums, that's going to be the big one.
Yeah, so this is where we'll be using the optical input to expand our channels, and just show that this is practical for drums. You know, a lot of people think it's only got two inputs. I can't use this for drums. I can only use it for guitar or vocals or whatever. No, I mean, okay, you'd have to shed out a little bit more for the extra, the other interface, but it's one of those. It's easily compatible. Focusrite is across the board, really easy to patch together, and yeah, I mean, we should get a nice, good quality drum mix from this.
Yeah, one thing that's worth talking about with using the ADAT is because it's only a single ADAT track count.
Yeah.
It's something that's worth talking about because you can have 8 inputs on the optical, but only at 44 or 48K.
From I believe.
That's ADAT.
Yeah.
If you go up to 96K or 88.2, it will then halve because it's double the data rate.
Right.
So it's got 8 channels, but it'll be 2 per input, so it can send the bandwidth down.
Okay.
Which means that the pre's in here will still work, but that would become a 6 input, which isn't really enough for drums.
Yeah.
But if you record in, I don't know, something like a choir where you've got a couple of overheads and you've got a nice external pre, and you've just got enough for that situation, that would work fine.
Yeah.
But 10 tracks is pushing it for a drum kit as well. You should probably have a few more, but we're going to use a 2-tom kit. And I'm thinking 2 on the kick, 2 on the snare, 1 on each tom, 2 overheads and 2 rooms.
Yeah.
And we can actually separately demonstrate the room mics with and without the air if we use these
Well, yeah,
pre's.
definitely.
Because unlike a lot of people who kind of have the spot mics as kind of they use the premium pre's on that, I actually use the premium pre's on the overheads or the room because I feel like I get more of the character and the tone out of that.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do. So let's cut the camera now and see you in the live room.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to record guitars with the Clarett interface in a 2-stage. So we're going to record a DI from the guitar straight into one of the inputs on instrument mode, partly to see how good the DI is and whether we should need an extra external DI. And by the sounds of things, there is some noise coming out, but what we're doing is we are live monitoring through Logic through a reamp box straight out to a PV6505 on the red channel. So we're getting all the gain and I can still talk above it. I mean, we're going to record the amp at bedroom level to kind of prove a point that you can record like this and keep the DI so that at a later date, or in our case later on today, if you're in a soundproof room, you can then reamp with 2 microphones where we can compare the pre's with the air on and off. So let's get this going. So, Mr. Pheasey, would you be so kind as to come in and press the record button? Okay, so I'm going to get myself a bit more level out of the headphones. They actually were only halfway up. So I really can get a bit more level out. I usually turn the volume down on tracks that are coming out so they don't bake my brain, but looks like we've got plenty of headroom. And this is recording at a volume where I can hear myself clearly through the amp. So we're going to record that again. What we've done as well is we've recorded in SM57, not to use in a final mix because you wouldn't really run an amp at this kind of low volume, but this is just so that if we listen back to it, if we had to finish at the end of this tracking session, Danny would have something to listen back to have a rough idea of where it should fit in a mix. That way we can go back later and be like, well, this is the kind of tone we're looking for, but better. And then we've got something, if you're working with another engineer perhaps, there you can say, this is what I'm going for, please give me this, but good. And that's kind of the aim, so we're going to go for another take, because I did manage to fluff that up in the middle. And we'll get 2 takes of this. I'm not going to do the whole song, I'm just going to do kind of the gain section, because it should hopefully show off the cleanness of the DI and the line output going to the reamper here, because there's not that much noise going on. and we're going to hard pan it left and right, and then we're going to reamp them as we see fit afterwards. So
we'll go record now then.
Yes, please. From the top, yes?
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna, off camera, we're just gonna double track this and do it exactly the same twice, so that we can then hard pan them.
Okay, so now we've done a recording as if we were kind of in a home studio, like a bedroom environment. Now we're in a soundproof studio, so we can crank up the volume a little bit, make ears bleed. Not literally. Right, so what we've done here is we've obviously got our double tracks and all our takes from our little kind of bedroom setup earlier. Now we've set up just two direct inputs from, so you've got 57 going into our input number 2, and then a 421 going into input number 1. Yeah. So basically the aim is that we're just going to record just the beat that's going to come out of the cab. So let's go and start that.
I'm going to shut this door.
Yes. Okay, so let's do a little bit of a test first. So, okay.
So one of those DIs needs to come out somewhere. So they're both muted right now.
Okay, so
yeah, so one of them
needs
to come out.
And that should come out.
Okay, so if we leave that running, we can now make sure the levels are coming up, because I know for a fact that this 421 being vintage is wired out of phase. It's a real pain.
Yeah.
But can you flip the phase of the 421 channel in the mixer?
I just need to...
You mean there's no button?
Phase input.
Okay. So, right, hit some noise again. Okay, so this is where Danny's wearing headphones, and I'm also gonna put some headphones on in lieu of earplugs, because what we're gonna do is we are gonna now crank up the amp, because this is still at bedroom volumes. Alright, so based on the guitars that we just heard, Danny, you're in agreement that kind of there's the air version and the non-air version, and the non-air version we actually prefer in this case. The guitar amp itself was quite bright, so in this case having the choice to not use the air seemed to be the right kind of way to go. If we had quite a dark amp, say if we had 8 ohm speakers, these were 16s, and something like an old Mesa dual rectifier that's really quite dark and moody sounding, maybe the air could have added a little something without us having to go back and EQ it. So let's move on to bass here in Vintage Corner at the studio. So we've set this up. So this is my Tech 21 Landmark head. It's got a Sans amp out, and also we're going to use a Sennheiser 121, and we're going to track the bass twice. So we're going to do it without the air and then with, so you can hear both separately, and you can decide for yourselves which one you prefer. Start the fans, please.
Beautiful assistant will now press record.
Yeah. So this is the SM7 test. This is something I'm going to start doing regularly in these kind of interface tests where we've absolutely cranked the gain. So the gain on the preamp is as high as it'll go, and this audio has been set in the YouTube video at 0 dB. So we're not adding anything, we're not compressing anything. And this is with the air function off. So if you just listen for the, usually when you crank a preamp on a kind of an all-in-one interface, you get a kind of a hiss in the background. It's kind of what we call the end of clean gain. It's dirty gain, but have a listen. That is surprisingly quiet to me. Now let's turn on the air function. And instantly you'll be able to hear that it's like a blanket has been lifted. Like, it's gone from unusable as was to, hey, with the low cut on the mic, and I'm talking very quietly and kind of almost whispering into an SM7B, which is a notoriously quiet mic. Listen again in the air mode for the background noise. That's impressive. So I'll be doing this again with other interfaces, and you may be surprised. Some of them, when you go back to different files, some of them you'll be able to hear a. So let's move on to a proper vocal test. Okay, so this is a mic that I would normally use for a big vocal. This is my SE Electronics Gemini 2. And we're not doing direct monitoring again on this. This is going through Logic's monitoring system, and this is going through Slate Digital's virtual mix rack. So I've got an 1176 style compressor going whilst I'm tracking. And the difference is, if I really go bananas on this, you're not all going to go deaf. If I go, hey, then that should be, the level we see on the screen is crazy, but because it's live monitored and it's around 4 milliseconds for that whole kind of thing, then it's really kind of nice. Now, we're going to now cut the camera and I'm going to make up some words. So we're going to sing a bit of a vocal over this track. This is not a song that I had words for, so I'm just going to completely wing this. But we're going to do 2 takes, roughly in the same style, kind of try and do the first part with a big epic vocal and then the second half with a really quiet. And then we're going to turn on the air on the preamp. As you can hear, apart from the compressor being absolutely slammed, there isn't that much background noise. You can hear the camera whirring away. That's about it. That's quite impressive, again, for a kind of an onboard interface preamp. And that, I would imagine, was where a lot of money's gone in this unit.
Oh, definitely.
Because, yeah, you can get interfaces for a lot less, like we said before, but this really seems to be kind of paying for itself. So, here we go. Here's the song Silence with some complete made-up words in the style of Ozzy Osbourne. Silence will fall upon me all alone. Well, that's a bit emo, isn't it? Considering I'm just making it up on the spot. Alright, I think that'll do for... We will fall all around. We will know the something. Right, so in the final part of our demo, this is where we expand the 2-pre into the 10-channel monster. Now this, as you could see from the high-speed setup, is a kit with 10 mics on it. So this is 2 on the kick, 2 on the snare, 2 toms, overheads, and 2 ribbon room mics. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to do 2 takes of this. Probably both going to be awful, but I keep saying in these videos I'm not the world's best drummer, but I need to be able to play to show you guys what these pieces of gear are capable of. So we've hooked up my Focusrite Octo Pre Mark II Dynamic, running at 48k, with the ADAT optical into the Clarett 2 Pre, and then 2 channels on the Clarett doing the room mics. So the room mics, in my opinion, make a huge difference to the drum sound. And we'll try these ribbons with the air on and with the air off. So we're going to start with the air off because I would expect it to be quite dark because the overheads give us quite a lot of this brightness on the cymbals that we want. So we're going to mix the kit before we show you the kit sound because as it is separate drum mics, never quite sounds particularly pretty. But we'll show you the separate room mics with the air, without the air. All right.
So I'll start recording.
Yep. Right, so the earplugs are in. If you want to just give me a first run through. So after that, it all sounds pretty decent to me.
Yeah.
So, spoilers, we've not actually filmed the next bit yet. We're going to go and do that now. But editing magic.
Yay.
Yay. So, how much did this cost?
You're talking about $350.
$350, roughly.
Yeah.
In pounds, because we're being British.
Yes.
Most of the viewers, don't know if you're aware, but most of my viewers, for whatever reason, are from the US of A.
Yeah, so it's 350 imperial credits of Her Majesty's realm.
So, probably $400 or $500 then?
Yeah, I'd probably imagine that.
And there are a lot of interfaces that you can get for a lot less money.
Yeah, definitely. But then it's again, comparing quality for, you bang for buck kind of thing. I mean, if you're looking at the cheaper interfaces, they're going to be USB as well. And that's not to completely slate USB. It's just, if you want that slightly higher production value, especially when it comes to latency, if you're one of those people that are really anal about that, then Firewire. Firewire is the old one. Hey, Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is definitely obviously going to have a higher quality, so you're paying more for quality, really.
Yeah. Interestingly, the sound quality for USB Firewire Thunderbolt is no different. But what's important, like we looked at in the screen capture, was the round trip latency.
Yes.
I personally cannot stand direct monitoring. You know, in kind of in the old style of interfaces where you'd in the interface it would send the direct monitor out to you and the DAW would be separate.
Yeah.
That drives me up the wall because if I want to use a compressor or a virtual amp or something, that doesn't work.
No.
So I just get in the headphones. But you can get the latency on this down reliably so low that it practically feels like real time. I mean, something like we're working with like 4 millisecond round trip latency. Yeah. The human brain can't process anything below 4 milliseconds, so it's that short. It may as well be because of the speed of sound. I think 3 milliseconds, I once heard anecdotally, was the space in between a piano player's hands.
Okay.
Because of the speed of sound, that's how long it takes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So anything, and that's the other thing that people miss, is latency on an interface should be called additional latency. Because if you're working with speakers, right? Yeah. So speakers are from me to you. Yeah. That's 2 or 3 milliseconds of latency from the speaker making that noise to it getting to my ears. Yeah. So then you've got to add the latency on from you playing the guitar to that. Then if say your guitar microphones are a distance away from the cab, then you've got to add that on. Then you've got to add the latency of the interface. So the additional latency, even if you could get away with something like 10 or 15 milliseconds on USB, as soon as you start adding it all together, it becomes a bit too much. Whereas this is that low that overall I find that it then becomes like analog. Yeah. So, ratings out of 10 for what you need it for, because you could have just got the 8 pre-X with all the preamps and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So much more money, but value, quality, Give us a rating out of 10.
Overall, I'd probably say at least a good solid 9 out of 10. Like I said, the only thing that brings it down is it needs to be plugged in for
it being a 2-channel interface. I would have thought that Thunderbolt could handle enough power because it's like a 12-volt out from Thunderbolt.
Yeah.
So I suppose that is the only main downside, that you can't just use this with the battery-powered MacBook.
Yeah.
On, say, a tour bus or whatever.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, so it does limit a little bit of the location kind of side of things. But generally, that's my only gripe that I've had with it, really. Overall, like I said, build quality, sound quality, just everything for what you're getting for, like I said, £350 is extremely, extremely high quality, especially for someone like myself who is a student currently and looking to expand in the future. It gives you that flexibility as well, because I can now expand in the future if I wanted to spend another £500-600 getting the add-on stuff. But yeah, 9 out of 10 solid.
Good stuff. And there you have it. I'm Adam Steele for the Hot Pole Studios, and this is Danny Pheasey. Thanks for watching. Give us a like and share the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because we want to make more videos like this.
Yep.
And please consider checking out our Patreon campaign, because we want to make more videos like this and you guys can help us out with that kind of thing. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
See you later.